Hello everybody, this is Actor Michael Merchant, and I just wanted to make a quick video on my healing spec and go over, some of the decisions that I made and why I made them. And, I honestly feel like this is probably the best healing spec for even PVE content and PvP especially, in wars. So just taking a look, grab Absolved, obviously. No mana usage on attacks, pretty necessary. Blissful Touch, light attacks now heal for 20% of weapon damage when passing through an ally. This is important to grab. It's free heals because you're going to be light attacking most of the time anyway, except when you use heavy attacks to gain a 30% buff to your healing, but we'll get to that later. The next skill, or the first skill that we grab, is Sacred Ground. This is pretty obvious. It's one of the best healing moves in the game because it is an AoE ground patch that will heal as people are sitting on it. I go ahead and grab each of the abilities, not so much for the stamina and mana regen. Typically for casters, the mana regen doesn't work if you're casting like an auto attack. So for instance, we'll go ahead and cast our abilities here. We're down 83 mana. If you're not attacking, you can see how the mana regens. However, once you start attacking, it kind of freezes your mana regen. So anything with increasing mana regen, I feel, is pretty much a waste of a skill point. However, increasing the incoming healing by 50% is pretty substantial. The next passive we grab is Revitalize, which is when you hit with a light attack, reduce all your cooldowns by 5%. This is extremely valuable in PvP especially, because you want to keep these AoE abilities up. We don't use any single target healing or any smaller group healings, because one, they often overheal, which is wasted heals, and two, it's not very useful outside of your group. So especially when you're talking in PvP, such as a war situation, you're not healing other people outside of your group, whereas with Sacred Beacon, or Sacred Ground, Beacon, and Orb of Protection, you heal anybody in the radius. Then we grab Sacred Protection. While holding the Lifestaff, you increase the amount of healings to your group by 5%. We grab Intensify. Heavy attacks increase healing by 10% for 10 seconds, max stacks of 3. So just every so often cast a healing heavy attack, and you gain a 10% buff, up to 30% buff. Now, I don't grab Mending Touch because you're not going to be using heavy attacks all the time. So it's kind of worthless to try and focus that, and it's a waste of a point. Desperate Speed, when you heal an ally with less than 50% health, Lifestaff ability cooldowns are reduced by 10%, can only be triggered once every 5 seconds. Also a waste because you'll have plenty of cooldown reduction with Revitalize, and with this being a trigger of once every 5 seconds, really kind of a waste. Enchanted Justice as well. It's too long of a cooldown, and just 10% of your weapon damage. So again, kind of a waste of a point. Now, a lot of people ask why I don't grab Divine Blessing. Well, Divine Blessing is very situational. If you heal an ally, if their health is below 50%, you heal for 30% more. Now, for me, as a person that's using heals over time, as soon as they get over that 50% threshold, probably only one tick will be 30% more. So why do that? Why waste the point when you can grab some more abilities over here in the Protector tree that are much more worth it? For instance, Aegis, that increases the radius of Orb of Protection by 3 meters. So looking at the Protector tree, I grab Orb of Protection, where we shoot out a light projectile that grants Fortify by 10% for 20 seconds, and heals an ally for 10% of weapon damage, and deals 146% weapon damage when it hits an enemy, and Fortify reduces incoming damage. Fortify, in my opinion, is pretty important because it's reducing the amount of damage that I have to heal. Simple as that. It also does 146% damage, which helps in PVE content when you're soloing. It increases, you know, a little bit of damage. So it's actually pretty nice when you walk up to an enemy. Let's see if there's anyone around here real quick. If not, I won't worry about it. Yeah, it doesn't look like anybody is around. And for some reason, I'm having this weird animation glitch. Yeah, it's kind of weird. But yeah, it does like basically a little bit more damage. Protector's Blessing. If Orb of Protection hits an ally, they gain recovery for 10 seconds, which is 7.5% weapon damage every second for 10 seconds. So really solid skill. It's a free heal. And they can move around, and they don't have to be in the sacred ground to get the healing, so it's not bad. Shared Protection. If you successfully heal an ally with Orb of Protection, you also gain Fortify and Recovery. So free Fortify, free Recovery for you. And Aegis. When the projectile hits, it affects all allies within 3-meter radius. A lot of people don't like to grab Orb Protection and would rather grab like Divine Embrace or Light's Embrace. But once you get here and it affects everybody in an AoE, you're basically getting a free 10% Fortify on everybody, and a free recovery on everybody as well. So this is really valuable in war when you're trying to heal a group of people that are on a flat cap. You know, you're gonna be providing that extra protection and extra heals to the entire group, not just in your 5-man, which is really important. These don't go outside of your 5-man, you know. So providing heals for everybody increases your healing, helps the whole squad out rather than just yourself and your group in particular. We grab Bend Light, dodging 20% more effective heals for 5 seconds. You cast a dodge, cast a heal, easy enough. Fortify, this is just kind of a filler. You know, I couldn't really find any better. You don't want mana regen because it's worthless. I don't like haste. I don't think it's necessary. But hitting with Lifestaff, giving you 15% Fortify on top of the 10% Fortify is extremely helpful in keeping you alive. Then we grab Protector Strength. If you have a buff, heal for 10% more. You're going to gain 2 buffs from Orb of Protection. You could gain a buff from Sacred Ground. You could gain a buff from your heavy attacks. You could gain a buff of the secondary Fortify. So it's easy to stack, and make sure that you have at least 1 buff at any time. You're never going to be without a buff, so you'll get an extra 10% more damage, more healing every time. Then Glowing Focus buffs you grant last 20% longer. That way, you know, you're doing more Fortify, more healing, and increases your beacon duration and your sacred ground duration. These are really important in keeping these abilities up. For the last ability, we grab Beacon. You got a live projectile that grants 146% weapon damage to enemies and attaches to a target, and heals all enemies nearby for 20% weapon damage each second for 10 seconds. The nice thing about Beacon is that you don't have to be in the AoE for this heal to work. Once you're here and you have it on, you can see the buff is still there. You heal for 20% caster's weapon damage. This is the heal, and as people walk out of the buff, they still get healed for the full damage for the full duration of Beacon. So people can run in and out, multiple people can run in and get the heal and then run out and continue with what their function is in the group. Infused Light, Beacon area is 50% larger, makes it easier for people to get in, and Beacon lasts 5% longer, which makes it just easier to spam. I don't need to see a reason of getting Speed of Light, because again, I don't really find it necessary to be casting haste on people. People have a way of getting around. There's haste potions, etc. to help you move. You don't need me to help you move. So that is the buff, or the build that I have. I'm using currently the heavy armor because there's no reason not to use heavy armor for the survivability. From what I understand and what I've tested, light armor doesn't really impact the healing, although it does impact your damage. Not sure when that's going to be fixed, but it needs to be fixed because it's broken. I don't want to be a tank. I would rather have the increased healing ability and be able to heal my team a little bit better, as opposed to the increased broken survivability of heavy armor. And then I just use the faction staff because it's really solid. Secondary weapons could be anything. Nature gemmed hammer, a lot of people run. I like the spear personally, and I just had this sword on because it looks pretty cool, especially with the glow animation. I just like the look of it. But yeah, that's my build for the Lifestaff. I personally think it's probably the best build that you can get, the best point distribution. And let me know if you think any different. If I have anything wrong, please let me know. And I'd like to hear your thoughts and see how it works for you. I'll post some stats of my healing and different evasions and wars after this. And yeah, take care.